In an entertainment world oversaturated with familiar names, a quiet young man emerged from the shadows. No scandals, no noise, no rush. Only to be suddenly chosen to play Superman, the timeless symbol of an entire generation. Who is David Corenswet? Why was a once-unknown face entrusted with carrying the future of the DC cinematic universe? From a stage-loving boy in Philadelphia to a Juilliard graduate with a rare air of classic elegance, David's journey is a story of persistence, talent, and ideals in the calculating heart of Hollywood. Today, we're diving deep into the life, career, and immense pressures behind the spotlight, now focused on David Corenswet, the new Superman of our era, and possibly the next cinematic icon of the 21st century. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe for more. Biography and background. David Packard Corenswet was born on July 8, 1993, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States. He came from a family deeply rooted in both intellectual and artistic traditions. His father, John Corenswet, was a lawyer who practiced in Philadelphia and had once pursued acting before shifting to law. His mother, Caroline Packard, is a highly educated public policy planner and consultant who graduated from a prestigious university. With such a family background, David grew up in an environment that blended logical legal thinking with a deep passion for the arts. From a young age, David showed a strong interest in theater and cinema. He began participating in local children's plays at the age of 8. Instead of spending time on video games or sports like many of his peers, David was fascinated by scripts, dialogue, and everything that happened backstage. His passion was fully supported by his family, especially his father, who, with his own acting school background, was a constant source of encouragement for David to pursue the art seriously. This instilled in David a belief that art was more than just performance. It was a mission to deliver deep emotions and messages to the public. After graduating from the Philadelphia High School for the Creative and Performing Arts, where he was praised for his expressive abilities and narrative thinking, David decided to pursue acting professionally. He applied to the Juilliard School, one of the most prestigious performing arts schools in the United States. This is the institution that trained renowned talents like Robin Williams, Jessica Chastain, and Viola Davis. In 2016, David graduated from Juilliard with a Bachelor of Fine Arts, carrying with him years of rigorous training and a profound development in both acting technique and character interpretation. Juilliard didn't just give him professional knowledge. It sharpened his creative thinking, stage confidence, and adaptability to various roles. He once shared that the competitive and high-pressure environment helped him understand that acting isn't just about performance. It's about fully living as the character, whether he's a dark priest or an optimistic young man in an unjust world. Unlike many young stars swept up by early fame, David Corenswet took a more cautious approach. After graduating, he didn't rush into big roles, but chose each project carefully, focusing on scripts with depth and characters with layered emotional complexity. This meticulousness and mature demeanor gradually caught the attention of industry professionals, even though he hadn't yet gained mainstream popularity at the time. In a world increasingly drawn to flash and spectacle, Corenswet stands out as a rare light. A young actor pursuing his craft with academic discipline and loyalty to the core values of the stage. He's not just a handsome guy with the ideal height and a classically charming look. He carries the mindset of a true artist, someone who lives to tell stories that move people. Career. After graduating from Juilliard, David Corenswet began steadily building his acting career with patience and discernment. In the early days, he appeared in short films, off-Broadway plays, and minor television roles that received little public attention. However, for David, every role, no matter how small, was an opportunity to learn, sharpen his skills, and assert his artistic identity. Unlike some young actors who opt for shortcuts through gimmicks or controversy, he remained committed to a professional path, focusing on emotional depth and authentic expression in his performances. His breakthrough came in 2019 when David was cast as River Barkley in the Netflix drama series The Politician, produced by Ryan Murphy. The show was a satirical drama centered around high school politics, where young characters compete for power and influence. River was portrayed as the ideal student, attractive, intelligent, and kind-hearted, but also carrying deep psychological wounds. With his subtle performance and expressive eyes, David left a strong impression on global audiences, quickly standing out among a cast of promising young actors. Soon after, in 2020, Corenswet was again trusted by Ryan Murphy to take the lead in another Netflix project, Hollywood. In this series, he played Jack Costello, a World War II veteran chasing the dream of becoming a movie star in 1940s Hollywood. The show explored the dark side of the entertainment industry, where dreams were often crushed by prejudice, racism, and the control of powerful insiders. Jack represented the hunger for a better life, the tension between morals and ambition, and the clash between ideals and reality. With his cinematic old-school look and emotionally rich acting, David Corenswet was quickly praised by critics as a new face with a vintage soul in Hollywood. Not limiting himself to drama, David also ventured into various other genres. In 2022, he appeared in HBO's political crime series We Own This City, which focused on corruption within the Baltimore police force. He played David McDougal, a supporting character who played a key role in uncovering the truth. That same year, David also starred in the horror film Pearl, a prequel to the acclaimed movie X, produced by A24. His involvement in such diverse projects showcased both his versatility and his serious commitment to expanding his artistic range. However, the pinnacle of his career, or perhaps the most pivotal moment, arrived in 2023 when James Gunn and Peter Safran officially announced that David Corenswet would be the next Superman in the film Superman Legacy, marking the beginning of a new DC cinematic universe. The decision sparked major controversy within the fan community, especially since Henry Cavill, beloved for his portrayal of Clark Kent, had just been confirmed to return, only to be abruptly dropped. Despite the initial skepticism, most experts agreed that David was a fitting choice, thanks to his resemblance to the comic book original, proven acting skills, and his timeless charisma, prompting many fans to call him the modern-day Christopher Reeve. Taking on the role of Superman also meant bearing immense pressure. Corenswet was now carrying not just a cultural icon, but also the hopes of revitalizing a struggling DC brand. Even though the film had yet to be released, David's name quickly shot up search rankings, his social media following soared, and countless articles speculating on his future flooded entertainment news outlets. He was entering uncharted territory, where not just talent, but endurance, poise, and perseverance would determine whether he could become a true icon like those before him. Personal life. David Corenswet is one of the rare young stars in Hollywood who has managed to keep his personal life relatively private, especially in an era dominated by social media and relentless paparazzi. He doesn't frequently share personal photos, romantic updates, or lavish getaways on platforms the way many of his peers do. Instead, David embraces a modest, calm lifestyle that reflects a more introspective personality, much like the refined, classic characters he often portrays on screen. People who have worked with David describe him as meticulous, polite, and deeply respectful of the craft. He isn't the type of actor who acts impulsively or gets swept up in the glitz of the industry. On set, he's known for his professionalism, willing to rehearse for hours to prepare for a role, and often engaging in deep conversations with directors about his character's psychological motivations. Filmmakers appreciate him not only for his talent, but also for his reliability and integrity. When it comes to personal relationships, David is extremely discreet. While there have been occasional rumors about his love life, no information has ever been confirmed. He has never publicly dated anyone in the entertainment industry, nor has he made controversial statements or political declarations like many of his contemporaries. This has helped preserve David's clean image, making him an ideal fit for roles that require a certain moral standard, especially Superman, a character expected to embody virtue both on and off screen. One distinctive aspect of David's personal life is his passion for classic culture. He's fascinated by cinema from the 1940s and 1950s and frequently cites icons like Humphrey Bogart, Gregory Peck, and Marlon Brando as major inspirations. His aesthetic taste also leans toward the nostalgic, from his wardrobe choices to his music preferences. In interviews, David often talks about rewatching black and white films, reading classical literature, and drawing emotional insight from Shakespearean plays. This explains why directors are drawn to him when looking for a timeless face in today's digital age. David also has a love for nature and quiet living. When he's not filming, he often returns to his home in Pennsylvania to unwind, read books, and walk his dog through the woods. He shared that stepping away from the city and escaping the spotlight helps him maintain emotional balance and avoid being caught in the fame-driven whirlwind. In an interview with Variety, he said, "Fame can come and go really fast. What matters is whether you're staying true to your values." Another important dimension of David's personal life is his interest in social causes. Though he doesn't speak out much online, he has quietly participated in several campaigns supporting environmental efforts, education, and the LGBTQ+ community. However, he prefers to contribute without turning these efforts into a publicity tool. To him, art is the most effective way to reflect and change society, not loud posts or attention-seeking statements. In many ways, David Corenswet's private life mirrors his character: sincere, reserved, thoughtful, and composed. In a world full of noise and controversy, he stands out like a refreshing breeze, not chasing overnight fame, not compromising his values for recognition, but steadily rising through talent, passion, and integrity. Drama and controversy. Compared to many young stars in Hollywood, David Corenswet is one of the few who has managed to steer clear of major scandals or significant media controversies. His public image has consistently been associated with professionalism, maturity, and seriousness, both in his personal life and career. However, as with anyone rising to a high-profile position, it's nearly impossible to avoid public scrutiny altogether. For David, the most intense drama he's faced erupted when he was officially announced as the new Superman for the DC Cinematic Universe. In June 2023, it was confirmed that David Corenswet would take on the role of Clark Kent/Superman in Superman Legacy, directed by James Gunn and marking the start of DC's franchise reboot. The announcement sparked immediate backlash from parts of the global fanbase. A large number of fans were upset that Henry Cavill, who had played Superman from 2013 to 2022, was suddenly dropped from the franchise after recently being told he would return. The decision ignited a wave of online debate, and David, despite not being responsible for the casting change, found himself at the center of criticism from loyal Cavill supporters. Social media platforms were flooded with both negative and positive reactions. Some people argued that David was too young, too soft, or lacked the commanding presence of a superhero icon. Others dissected his every gesture, old social media post, and even his physical appearance, comparing him to predecessors like Henry Cavill, Brandon Routh, and Christopher Reeve. In a short period, David Corenswet became a polarizing subject across Reddit, Twitter, and movie forums. Some fans even launched online petitions urging James Gunn to reconsider his choice. Even though David wasn't responsible for the controversy, he was inevitably pulled into the public dispute over what Superman should represent in this new era. Remarkably, throughout this intense wave of backlash, David never issued a reactive statement or engaged in any public argument. He chose to remain silent and focus solely on preparing for the role. According to behind-the-scenes sources, he began a rigorous physical training program and spent time researching previous portrayals of Superman in both comics and film to develop his own unique take. Beyond the Superman casting controversy, David has also been the subject of vague rumors about his private life, particularly regarding his sexuality and personal relationships. Some online speculation suggested he was part of the LGBTQ+ community, but was keeping it private to maintain a masculine public image, especially with a role as iconic as Superman, who is often seen as the epitome of traditional male ideals in pop culture. However, no concrete evidence ever surfaced, and most of the speculation stemmed from baseless assumptions or invasive curiosity. There were also whispers about David's professional relationships, particularly with powerful producers like Ryan Murphy, who cast him in multiple Netflix projects. Some critics suggested he advanced too quickly thanks to behind-the-scenes backing. However, many insiders pushed back on that narrative, emphasizing that David's talent, discipline, and cinematic instinct were what truly set him apart, especially considering Ryan Murphy's reputation for being highly selective during casting. All in all, when measured against the usual drama levels in Hollywood, the controversies surrounding David Corenswet remain relatively mild. The criticisms and gossip he's faced fall within the typical territory for a rising star, especially one taking on a role as culturally significant as Superman. What's most admirable is that, even under intense public pressure, David has never lashed out or behaved recklessly. Instead, he has stayed composed, focused on his work, and allowed his craft to speak on his behalf. The role of Superman and its impact on his career. David Corenswet's casting as Clark Kent/Superman in Superman Legacy wasn't just a major turning point in his personal career, it was a symbolic event for the entire film industry. Superman hasn't been just a comic book character for a long time. He represents ideals like justice, compassion, faith, and goodness, and serves as a global pop culture icon. Being chosen to play this role means that David Corenswet officially joined the ranks of actors immortalized in fan memory, alongside Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, and Henry Cavill. The decision to cast David came from James Gunn, the director and new co-head of DC Studios. Gunn wasn't simply looking for someone who could throw on the red and blue suit, fly through the sky, and punch villains. He wanted a Superman who was young, idealistic, and emotionally complex. With his classic features, dignified aura, and effortless acting, Corenswet quickly stood out to the casting team. Gunn even said that what impressed him wasn't just David's looks, it was his eyes. Eyes that could convey both strength and kindness. The exact qualities of an alien who desperately wants to do good on Earth. But the role comes with overwhelming pressure. Superman isn't just a superhero. He's a symbol of hope and expectations. Every gesture, expression, and even the actor's real-life persona gets analyzed under a microscope. From the moment the casting was announced, David faced an unprecedented wave of online debate. Some Henry Cavill fans argued the replacement was a mistake, claiming Corenswet wasn't masculine or commanding enough to portray the Man of Steel. On the other hand, many others praised the decision as a long-overdue return to the original essence of Superman, as a bright beacon of hope, not a brooding figure. To prepare for the role, David embarked on an intense physical training regimen. He hired a personal trainer, adopted a tightly controlled diet, and trained 5 to 6 hours a day to build a body worthy of Superman. He also revisited dozens of classic Superman comics, watched legendary film and animated adaptations, and worked closely with screenwriters to understand the emotional arc of Clark Kent in Legacy. In a rare interview, David said, "I don't just want to play Superman. I want to become him, at least for as long as I have the honor of carrying this role." In addition to physical transformation, David had to adjust to the intense media spotlight. He began appearing more frequently on red carpets and giving interviews to major film publications like Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and GQ. Each time, he maintained a composed demeanor, dressed sharply, and spoke with measured confidence, showing that he was well prepared and taking his new responsibility seriously. No drama, no arrogance. David understood that earning the trust of millions of fans is a rare privilege, and he was determined to prove he was worthy of it. If Superman Legacy succeeds, David Corenswet could leap into A-list stardom and potentially become the central figure of the DC universe for at least the next decade. That means starring in multiple follow-up films, from Justice League reboots to crossover stories. Not to mention brand partnerships, promotional campaigns, and a global personal brand. This single role could earn him tens of millions of dollars if all goes well. But more importantly, it could solidify his status as a cultural icon, something not every actor, no matter how famous, ever achieves. However, if the film fails, the consequences could be severe. DC has struggled for years with disjointed projects, and public patience is running thin. Should legacy fall short of expectations, David might take some of the blame, even if it's undeserved. He could risk becoming a failed Superman, much like what happened to Brandon Routh after Superman Returns, 2006, despite Routh being a genuinely talented actor. That's why this role isn't just an opportunity. It's the ultimate test of David Corenswet's career. A test not only of acting skill, but also of resilience, public composure, and the ability to stand tall under media pressure. And if he passes that test, David won't just be a successful actor. He'll become a lasting part of modern cinema history. Net worth and wealth. At this point in time, David Corenswet's net worth hasn't yet reached the tens of millions like many established A-list stars in Hollywood, but his rapidly rising career is almost certain to change that in the near future. According to financial entertainment sources like Celebrity Net Worth and CNKnowledge, as of 2024, David Corenswet's net worth is estimated to be between $1 million and $2 million. While that figure might seem modest compared to some of the industry's heavyweights, it reflects a stable and sustainable growth trajectory since his rise to fame. The majority of David's income has come from his work in film and television, particularly through projects with Netflix and HBO, such as The Politician, Hollywood, We Own This City, and Pearl. For leading roles in series produced by Ryan Murphy, one of the most powerful producers in the business, David's per-episode earnings may have ranged from $20,000 to $50,000, depending on the scope and budget of the show. On top of that, he likely received residual bonuses from syndication, international distribution, and image licensing deals. Although his exact financial contract have not been disclosed, his consistent involvement in high-budget productions suggests his income is far from insignificant. The biggest financial leap, however, undoubtedly comes from his role as Superman in Superman. Legacy. While no official figures have been confirmed, sources like The Hollywood Reporter and Deadline report that leading roles in the launch of a cinematic universe typically earn actors between $300,000 and $600,000, depending on name recognition and contract length. What's more, if the film succeeds, these deals often come with major back-end benefits, including box office profit shares, long-term promotional contracts, and licensing rights. As a new face of Superman for the next 5 to 10 years, David Corenswet stands to earn millions annually through film, video games, endorsements, merchandise, and special events. Beyond acting, David also makes money through fashion deals, magazine features, and media campaigns. His classically handsome looks have attracted attention from luxury fashion brands. He's been featured on covers of magazines like GQ, Esquire, and Variety, portraying the polished, elegant image of a modern gentleman. While he hasn't officially signed as a brand ambassador for labels like Dior, Gucci, or Armani, his potential in that market is undeniable, especially since the Superman image naturally aligns with strength, sophistication, and trustworthiness, traits luxury brand highly value. In terms of spending habits, David doesn't appear to be someone who flaunts his wealth. He lives a fairly low-profile and humble lifestyle, rarely posting about homes, cars, or designer goods on social media. According to several interviews, he still resides in a modest apartment in Los Angeles and prefers to drive himself to set rather than hire a private driver, as many stars do. Close friends have said that David values simplicity and often chooses to invest in creative projects or support community initiatives rather than indulge in extravagant living. However, with his global breakthrough as Superman and the backing of DC's revamped cinematic universe, it's not hard to predict that David Corenswet's net worth will skyrocket in the coming years. If Superman Legacy is a hit and he continues to appear in future DC projects like a new Justice League or World's Finest, his net worth could reach $10 to $20 million within just 3 to 5 years. At that point, David wouldn't just be an actor, he'd be a brand. Given his current momentum, David Corenswet is at a pivotal moment where he can shape a legendary career, not just as the Man of Steel on screen, but as a true artist, a creative force, and a cultural icon for the next generation. The real question now isn't whether he'll succeed, but how far he'll go, and whether he can maintain his integrity, artistic passion, and personal depth amid the blinding lights of Hollywood. Based on everything he's shown so far, Many believe that David won't just fly on screen. He'll soar throughout his entire artistic journey.